Hey, this is Lowell Caulfield. You know, with the unexpected death of Jeff Beck at the age of 78 from bacterial meningitis, I immediately found myself in my storage closet, digging through my old taped interview archives. For years, early in his career, Beck he didn't do interviews. But I knew I had one. In the spring of 1975, I was a 24-year-old journalist and blues guitarist, freelancing for Cream, Rolling Stone, and Guitar Player magazines, when I found out Beck was booked to play May 9th at Detroit's Masonic Auditorium on a double bill with John McLaughlin's Mahavishnu Orchestra. It was only weeks after the release of the guitarist's breakthrough fusion album, Blow by Blow. Well, that LP solidified Mr. Beck as my favorite guitarist, and he remains so today. So I wanted to interview him. I called the publicist at his label, but she informed me Jeff doesn't do interviews. In fact, he eats reporters for breakfast. He especially hated rock journalists and music critics, she added. Well, I didn't give up. I reached out to an Epic Records marketing rep who I knew from other stories. He told me he could get me backstage at the concert, and maybe even in the Beck's dressing room before the gig. But from then on, I was on my own with the man. The 30-year-old Jeff Beck I discovered that night, as Mahavishnu's string section warmed up in the background, was unlike his frightful reputation. He responded to every question. He explained his transition from rock and blues into the Grammy-winning instrumentals that would later become his trademark on all his following albums. He did take a shot at former vocalist Rod Stewart, but he also credited keyboardists Max Middleton and Jan Hammer for his musical growth. And he served up some gems that guitarists are going to find enlightening. What follows is that conversation. Some of the material ended up in an interview in Guitar Player magazine back in 1975. But it remains one of the few interviews Beck gave to anyone for the next 2 decades. And until now, no one has heard it but me. Please be patient with the chatter from his British sidemen in the crowded dressing room in the first few minutes of the tape. Listening with headphones will help clarify some of the muddy sections, but the room will eventually quiet down. And welcome to my new channel, Lowell Caulfield's Primary Sources, where in the future I'll be posting more interviews from my long-writing career, ranging from musicians like Bob Seger to psychopathic killers who were the subject of my best-selling true crime books. If you can, please like and subscribe to my channel below, and enjoy the interview with Mr. Beck.
Yeah, what you got down there?
Oh, I've got all kinds of things, man. We have one thing in common. At least you're a Buchanan freak, aren't you? Roy Buchanan?
Yeah, I like Roy.
Yeah. He flips me out. So he played here in Michigan, Michigan Palace. Yeah. And he was just hitting some peaks. And just, I was crying. You know, I was so heavy.
Hey, you
get a bit of that in the.
That you missed the other time. Put down as much as you could eat.
I can't say we ended as lovers.
Yeah, of course.
Roast beef, chicken, fish, shrimps, crabs, everything. They have bowls and bowls of everything.
Okay, like what the article is about, basically, what I hope they have to be about is, I think with the new album you went into some changes as compared to Beck, Bogart, and Appice, right?
Well, the Beck, Bogart, and Appice group came on about 5 years too late. Everybody knows that. Everyone I talk to understands why the group was put together. It's just to fulfill the desire to hear what it sounds like with that powerful rhythm section.
Yeah. Or it was more of a straight trio sound by major chords.
It had to be done just to keep the people happy.
If we could maybe get into a generalization, that the things you're into now, some people call it, it's similar to Mahavishnu. I don't think it's as way out as that. But
it crosses the gap between sort of white rock and Mahavishnu and sort of jazz rock. It bridges a lot of gaps and makes it a little bit more palatable to people. They understand it. The chords are easy to digest and the rhythms are easy to understand.
You would call it, though, unfriendly to jazz rock or jazz rock.
I wouldn't call it, sorry.
You would call it jazz rock.
It's on the fringe.
Especially with cuts like. In fact, when I first heard the album, I thought it was very commercial or somebody.
What?
Yeah, really. You know, I mean, some of the licks were hitting the fast runs, you know. 30-second notes, 16 notes. So anyway, what the article is about is you know, how you got into that. You know, were there any particular influences that made you go in that direction?
Well, a lot of influences, really. I'm not a record freak. If I get a tape, I'll play it in the car, you know, say when I'm driving someplace, but I don't go and sit down religiously listen to records. And I just buy a handful of tapes that knock me out at the time, like things like Cobham, Billy Cobham, Stanley Clarke, all the great rock and rollers. I call Billy Cobham a rock and roller because he's so forceful. And rock is the energy stuff, you know. To me, it's just more complex now than it was. But it's just progressive rock. It's the same.
But these licks they're not the same as like the Truth album. They're not the rock cliches, you know.
No, that's gone. It's finished. Everybody's been doing it. You know, Humble Pie, you know. Rick Ronson tried to do it. You know. Page does it still.
You think the people, or a lot of the people are just getting sick of it? I think especially the old people.
Probably not getting sick of it. I think they need to be led some other place. You know, whether they stay there or not is one thing, but they should be given the opportunity to do some other things. I could go out there, really. I suppose I could get a group with a singer like Ross and just clean up, playing 8 superstitions and that, but it's only nostalgia. You know, there's nothing new about it. I want people to start shouting because we ended his love, something like that. Something that's got some class to it, you know. I mean, that chord, you know, it's written by Stevie Wonder and it gives it immediate class. Not much good magazine.
In moving into that mode, you know, and from the technical side, what were some of the things you did? Did you study more, maybe scales? Did you practice more?
Yeah, I listened to Jan Hammer a lot.
To who?
Jan Hammer, from the previous Mahavishnu Orchestra. Moog player, you know, that used to be with Billy Cobham. He played on Billy Cobham's album, Spectrum. And that gave me a whole new, exciting sort of future because he plays the Moog a lot like a guitar. And that, you know, to know that, to appreciate those sounds coming out of the Moog, straight in, something straight into me. So I started playing like him. But it didn't sound like him, but his phrases were influencing me immensely.
Did you, you know, how much do you read music, or are you a scale freak, or?
No, not at all. I only play the notes that I think I want to hear. I don't practice a scale that's just very hard, just impressive. In fact, exactly the opposite. I like to play things that are easy, that sound hard, you know.
Play things that are easy that sound hard. But you know, like on Blow by Blow, there's a couple of times, I can't remember the particular song, where you run up to the neck, you do things that you haven't done before, at least I haven't heard. You know, that jazz run, that, you know, and then you're there.
Big John Wayne, right?
I mean, could you do that before? Could you do that 3-4 years ago?
Oh, yeah.
Just never.
It's just that, you know, it was so out of place in the music I was playing, it sounded like I was just showing off all the time. But in this, when you've got an intricate rhythm section, it fits in. You know, the whole thing sits back in.
Speaking of the rhythm section, what are the names of the people that you're playing with anyway? I gotta get that then. What names of the people you're playing with?
Oh, this is Max.
Are these the same people that are on the album?
Wilbur and Bernard Purdy.
And the same keyboard player?
Max Middleton.
The same as on the album?
Yes. Yeah, he and I
They're not
put the album
done with
together.
that chord yet, aren't they?
Which I was going to say, yeah. Did that have an influence too? Did he push you being with, he has a jazz influence?
No, yeah, well, he did, I mean, physically or mentally?
No, I mean, you know, you get around other musicians, you know, who can play.
Yeah, very true.
No,
I mean, when I want to put something into practice, I always call him Max up, because he can get the Rhodes piano, and I can just play what I have in mind with his backing is so fantastic, you know, that it makes a simple lick sound great, and that's why I use it. And that's how the album was put together, because he encourages me in everything I want to do. He seems very enthusiastic.
Well, you know, I was thinking in terms of, you know, I play guitar myself. When I get with people who play just straight rock, it's pretty hard to lay down to get into different licks other than straight rock. But if you get with somebody that knows things that you don't, or is into different influences, they sort of draw you out.
Yeah.
You found that all with him then?
Well, he draws out something in me that I was afraid would be there, you know, which is like taste.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It could put me out of a job, you know.
Getting back to the neck, I think in the last interview you said, let's see, I got it down here. I can understand Mahavishnu because they've done what I really wanted to do. And I think you mentioned that what a technically fantastic player Mahavishnu was, and you only knew maybe half the chords or whatever he did. Well, have you expanded your chord knowledge too this time?
Yes, but they're more standard chords than he uses.
But it's beyond still what you were doing before.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, I get away with chords that are unheard of in the rock business, you know? I mean, I keep on about humble pie, but I can't think of anything. Bad Company, for example, they don't use any more chords than just ordinary, regular majors and minors.
Yeah, right. Well, there's a million of them, they're just hard to remember because they all
sound the same.
Yeah.
They just, you know, if a computer was asked to put out the different permutations, they couldn't do it, but we've got more groups than a computer can handle, you know.
Yeah, I've been really getting sick of hearing 4/4 time and, you know, 12-bar variation, you know. I mean, back in '68, I could sit down and go to a Savoy Brown concert and just get blown away.
Yeah.
But that's because it was new then. But now it's just the same licks. I'm playing the same licks at home.
Some other place.
Really, you know, there's like since the Guitar magazine, there's a lot of guitarists out there that probably, you know, are in a sort of a rut, you know, a rock and roll rut.
Yeah, it's easy to get like that.
And what advice would you have to get out of that if they wanted to move more into like what you're doing into jazz rock?
Well, that would make it too easy for them, wouldn't it, if I told them?
Well, I mean, you know what you suggest.
I spent half my life trying to get out of ruts. Come on. What you've got to do is do what you do best. You know, get a band that you really like playing with and just blow it. You know. Very little else you can say. If you're in a depression, there's a personal thing. But musically, I mean, you usually reflect what's going on in your personal life in your music. I mean, if everything's jumping around you, you jump with it. That's the best way, you know, pull yourself out of the depression and then start playing.
Do you think it helps maybe to learn to read music at all? Do you read music?
No, it doesn't help me at all. Because after all, nobody's following me on dots, and they're not going to clap because I did every dot on the thing. You know, they're going to clap because they like what they heard. And
yeah, right.
You know, that's the way I look at it. Far away from the standard set of rules laid down by the concert pianist. I mean, so don't play a piece that's absolutely as per the book.
Yeah, right.
They can get booed off, you know, even if they miss the last note of the concert.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's not too heavy for me.
In fact, I guess that's the whole trick in classical, is being able to work on those dots and still have some sort of style.
That's all.
Like
That's all it is.
somebody.
It's no use playing like a mechanical sort of piano. You've got to be able to inject your own feeling to it. And therefore, why not make your own music up and then do it?
Yeah.
After all, you'll be playing your own, putting yourself over more in a personal level.
You're still improvising a lot.
It's jazzing around.
Yeah.
But there's no sense in restricting yourself with music. After all, music is supposed to be set out to give you freedom. And do what you want.
A particular song, Diamond Dust. Beautiful. I just love it.
Do that in the second set.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It really comes.
There's some
over.
really sweet stuff in there. I mean, really sweet lick shit. Lines like that, that's almost like a symphony. I mean, you've got the orchestration in there. Did you do the orchestration?
No, George did that. In fact, I hated it when I heard it because I've been so used to listening to the track without it. Like you go into the studio fresh the next morning, you think, oh, that's a nice track, leave that alone. And then you overdub and you hear people messing around with the mix, and you get so used to it. And then when you finally hear the strings on it, you think, oh my god. But then you have to get used to that.
Yeah.
See, and it's too easy to kick stuff out. You have to live with it. I take my recordings home and listen to them, so that I know that I'm giving them a fair chance. If I hate the stuff I've done, or that it's been overdubbed, after about a month, I take it off. But if I really grow to like it, then I'm only too happy to leave it on.
How much time do you put in, or did you put in that album?
3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yeah. That was quite hard work though. We had about a 4 or 5 day rehearsal before. But a lot of the stuff was made up on that's the beauty of the recording now. You don't have to get it all right the same day. Come in the next day and change a few bars. I'm not in favour of that working that way, but if it comes out good, it has its merits.
What was the source of a song like Diamond Dust? It's got movements to it. It changes and it comes back, and there's a replay of the theme. Where do you hear those notes? I mean, you hear them in your head, when you're going to sleep at night, or what?
No, just when I hear a really well-recorded sound coming at me from the speakers, and the guitar is sunken into the sound, then I just go off into the sound. I don't go home and think, what am I going to play tomorrow night?
But I mean, when you originally created the song, Diamond Dust was written by you.
I didn't write that. No, I didn't write it. It was written by Bernie Holland. If you look on the credits, it says B. Holland. He wrote the melody, but it was in a 4/4 time. We put it in a 5/4 time.
I didn't know that. See, I didn't see it. In fact, I don't think there's credits on that album, is there? That's
perhaps
what
on the sleeve.
confused me, yeah.
I don't know if it's on the label, but it's maybe on the sleeve.
How many did you write out of the ones in there?
Oh, about 4 or 5. I can't remember exactly the ones. I'm so glad to get the album done. Max has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
He wrote some melody. He wrote Freeway Jam melody.
I used it for a movie I made, by the way. It goes great with motorcycles. A motorcycle race.
It's really true.
Yeah, it's a very like jogging sort of thing.
You're a very hard person to try and get to see.
Why?
All these people around you are very protective of you.
Well, if you know what it's like in Chicago, there's 400 people in the dressing room.
Oh, really? I heard you lost a guitar, broke a guitar or something.
I deliberately did it because it was getting to me. I was playing it every night. It was going out of tune. I tuned it up again, and then it broke the string. Right in the middle of the sort of Diamond Dust sort of thing. I just threw it on the ground and it split right in.
During that?
Yeah, they loved it. The kids just went berserk. I went berserk because I wish I hadn't done it now.
I didn't know that. I thought you'd quit playing the Stratocaster.
No, I don't know. It's just a good stage guitar. Although it's technically a bitch to get hold of and play, it comes over. It slices through the atmosphere.
The highs.
Yeah.
It's like a telly. It's got that.
Yeah, it's more than a telly. The telly is a little bit rounder. It's got more distortion than the Strat.
That's the difference between your. Obviously the thing dedicated to Buchanan has got some Buchanan licks in it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between you and Buchanan is Les Paul. You play Les Paul on that right now.
Right on the stage, yeah, you can't hear that.
Yeah. You know, he gets those little crisp things.
Yeah.
So you're using Les Paul on the Strat now?
Yeah.
On stage
The
and
Squire
recording?
is too much hassle to keep changing 3 guitars. You know?
Isn't that, aren't all the Strats sort of hard to keep in tune?
Oh yeah. Yeah, don't talk to me about Strats. Especially the ones that are strung down, just thin strings.
Have there been any other basic equipment changes that you've made from...
I still use the same wattage output,
which is what?
About 200. But I only have one amp that's mic'd. You don't hear one of the amps, you'd never hear it in a million years.
Well, what's the amp? What's the equipment?
Two Fender speaker cabinets and 2 Marshall tops.
And what do you have as accessories down there?
There's a booster and a wah-wah. There's no overdrive booster, it's just a preamp that distorts. It's not a fuzz box.
It's a power booster.
Power booster, right. That gives you instant power.
It gives you a sustain.
Sustain and distortion.
Have you think you'll ever use vocals again, other than the little bag that you?
No, that's just.
What is that thing anyway? How do you do that? Yeah, I think it sort of looks like a wine bag.
Yeah, no, it isn't.
What's the principle behind that?
It's just a signal that comes up the tube. The guitar. If I hit the note, it'll come up the tube into my mouth.
Oh, and then you
amplify with the mic. No, you don't talk. You play the sound into your mouth through the tube, and then you just move your mouth and make the sound do what you want.
Oh, that's wild. And then you use wah-wah too?
No.
Or no, just with your mouth is the wah-wah.
Yeah.
Did you invent that?
No, that was about 40 years ago it was invented.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Sparky's Magic Piano. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
There was a kid's record I used to play. And this kid used to go for piano lessons, he couldn't play, and he had a dream, and in the dream his piano had come to life and started talking to him. It was this voice modulator thing. The piano chord was going, Sparky,
Yeah.
It's great, and that's where the idea came from.
You want that?
Yeah.
Do you think that music is heavy, let's say it's John McLaughlin, is way out, is the only word I can use. It's progressive, it's whatever, it's experimental. Do you think it eventually will reach the point maybe where rock was, or is now, or was in 70s?
I think it's got to go as far out as you can get,
Do you think it will have that type of popularity that groups like Cream had?
Eventually, I think so, if they're given the support and the recognition that they deserve. All it takes to get a group or a sound magnified into giant proportions is a lot of support in the public. If they're going to just knock off albums and say, well, that's too far out, it'll just die. And then in 20 years' time, people say, oh, McLaughlin was great. Who wants that? You want to live now and enjoy now,
Well, it's strange, I'll put on McLaughlin. I'm a musician, so I can relate to a lot of things that the average listener can't. And I'll put on a McLaughlin album and I go, God, that's great. That's just, what's his name? Chick Corea. Something like that. And I'll go, wow, these guys are cooking. I mean, they're doing things, that are just unbelievable. And somebody come over, who's been listening to Lead Belly Blues for a long time, or straight rock, or whatever, and I'll put it on, and they'll go, I just can't relate to it, man. It's just a bunch of noise. A bunch of noise. They can't pick out the notes. They can't pick out the.
No, it's their fault if they don't want to join in and learn.
Yeah.
They're missing out.
Yeah. So.
I was going to say it takes time, though.
It does. It does. The first time I heard McLaughlin, I turned it off. Turned the record player off. And indeed, with Cobb and stuff, if it hadn't been for people playing it around me, a lot on tape machines, I wouldn't, picked up on it.
Have you been jamming with people at all and sort of lay off your head for a couple
I don't jam. No,
what do you do when you're not, recording?
I live in the country. I'm a country boy. So there's always things to do. Fun things.
Yeah.
Like with your house and your gardens and things.
Did you play much guitar then?
Not much. I build a lot of cars, you know, I fiddle around with cars. And I don't mean fiddle around, I mean I'm serious. I spend thousands of dollars on high-speed equipment.
Did you play every day though, or?
Oh yeah, you know, if the guitar is like when I finish doing what I've got to do during the day, I play to relax.
Yeah,
It's great.
that's what I do.
I don't get up at breakfast time and practice.
You're not really 6 hour a day.
No, because I think that's a good way to get great, but then you fizzle out, you peak out too soon. You know, I want to peak out just before I die.
Here's another question.
You don't like cinema?
Not that much, yeah.
Did you get into the, moving more to the jazz thing for the sake of expression, or because it was more a challenge in a technical way?
Well, both.
Very expensive.
It wasn't a challenge because I wouldn't. If anything gets the better of me, I
When
really.
you take nicer, it's the best.
But it was nice to hear myself playing after 2 years of not. You know, the ideas just come out, and you know, when you hear them in your mind, it's not quite the same as when you go to a studio and you hear them put down and you've got the evidence.
You would? What would you like?
Coke and whiskey.
Coke and whiskey.
Do you have any plans for the near future? The tour?
Coke and
I've got
whiskey
some
take
very
away.
sketchy plans at the moment. I'm just hoping, like, I always try and aim for the big things. I mean, I want to play Billy
Do you want
Cobham.
it in glass? Can you have it in glass? Or
Do you want to play what?
Billy Cobham.
Or do you want it in here?
You know Billy Cobham?
Yeah, right. You want to play with him?
Yeah, I want to be in a band. Well, I want to be in a band with him in it, you know.
Do you ever get sick of being the front man?
Well, I haven't had a chance. This is only the second week of the tour, you know. It's good fun, but it's very you know, it's like really tiring.
Very smooth whiskey.
You've been sort of not labeled, but people said you're a flash guitarist.
Who said that? I know somebody once
Well, you know,
said
somebody asked me that in the last interview, and
they said, do you think I'm flash? And I said, yeah. Because I just simply because I didn't want to argue about it.
One of these? A 7 of them.
I mean, you purposely, you know.
Everybody, I don't deliberately show off. I don't strut around like Rod Stewart, for example. That's what I show off.
You're still on bad terms with Rod Stewart.
Yeah, I can't stand him. He gets on my nerves. Even more now than the other.
I think it'll have to be a coat runner. Is that alright? Rock and roll.
There, you know, there's traces of what you're doing now on
Do you like it?
Jeff Beck group. Is it the one with Going Down? Like the tune you did tonight, that I can't never remember the names. The one with the slide.
Oh yeah, that's on the album.
Yeah,
definitely maybe. Definitely maybe.
Right, and that's your composition?
That's Max. I'm sure.
Yeah. That is similar, you know, to what you're doing now on Blow by Blow.
Yeah. There's always a little bit of that on my albums. It just depicts where I'm at a particular time. Also,
Off the record, what do you think of, what Clapton's doing now?
I don't know what he's doing.
You haven't heard any of his albums?
No. I've heard a bit of Ocean Boulevard. Something's got to be shoved under my nose before I listen to it. It's very narrow, but very narrow approach. But I just haven't got time to listen to it. I mean, if he was playing in my town, I'm sure I'd go and see him. So I never see him. You know, we never cross paths. I see Jim Page from down there.
He gets chased out of this one.
It's so much hassle involved going to one of them Led Zeppelin concerts. I wouldn't even bother.
Yeah, especially one here in Detroit. They had about 10 fights, and they just went completely crazy. They just went completely. This is a crazy city. It's a very crazy city. How many times have you played there?
I was twice with the Beck group. Once with Tench. I think it was twice with them. Twice with BBA. This is about the 8th time.
It's a bizarre city.
10 years, boys, since I was here. No, 8 years.
8
I
years?
played with the Yardbirds, man. 65.
Where at?
Detroit. I don't know where we played. Flint. Oh, we played Flint. Not
Flint.
Detroit.
Oh, this is a crazy city. I don't know. The worst place is Toledo. You were in there? I don't think you'd ever want to go there. John Denver wrote that they go and watch Bread Rice for enjoyment in Toledo, Ohio. No, the thing that's weird about Toledo is they have a whipping M80s on the stage and guitars. M80 is a firecracker that will blow off your hand. In fact, Keto from John Mayo, he was playing the other day. They chucked one at his feet. They chucked one in Alice Cooper's at his drummer, blew up the lights and filled his eyes with glass. They had to stop the show. But I'm going to tell you that.
They carried on after that.
Yeah. No, they didn't. No, they walked. Alice said, "You people are acting like children. We come here to have a good time," and they cut off. Well, it was kind of a bummer because just one guy ruined the show for 8,000 people. This is in Toledo, Ohio.
Is that Canada?
You haven't made any equipment changes. Done basically from BBA, right?
No, I used to use sun amps with them because they were so loud. I had to use some to compete with them.
So why'd you go over to the Fender Bottom and the?
Well, the speakers are tough, and the tops they give the right sort of gritty sound. The sun is a bit too clean.
You mean it's cleaner with the Fenders? You like the cleaner sound?
No, the speakers are more reliable than those Marshall speakers. But the Marshall top is better than the Fender top.
You're not piping as much volume out of the amps as before, are you?
No.
You're just letting the soundboard saving your. You wear earplugs?
No.
Yeah, you don't need to.
No, it's not that loud at all.
You ever see Robin Charles?
No.
He's into have you heard him?
No. I don't really like the direction he's going.
Sort of
Hendrix.
Yeah.
Anything that reminds me of him just upsets me. I want him to still be alive.
Really? Have you heard his new album? Dead Man's album?
No, I'm not interested.
I guess they're coming out with some things with jam sessions with John McLaughlin.
Who will?
Company, record company. They found 600 hours of tapes.
Oh, that's right.
And the new album is the first dose of that, which is his straighter stuff,
Yeah.
But I guess he was drifting off like in the direction you're going into, and McLaughlin.
Yeah.
It really pisses me off when I think about that because
Such a waste.
I never. I wonder really what the fuck happened, and what was going on in the end there. It seems like a lot of people were controlling his head. He was letting people get to his mind. And,
I don't think so. I think he was very independent.
Oh, really?
It's
You
just
think he committed suicide?
No, it wasn't suicide. It was accidental. The girl that gave him his fatal dose was in love with him, and she wanted to give him everything he wanted. And he asked for some pills, and she gave him the wrong pills, and he reacted badly on what he'd already had that night. And he just choked.
Yeah, you know if they wouldn't have sat him up or laid him down in the ambulance, he would have lived. They made a mistake. Yeah.
If he sat up and
Yeah.
kicked him on the back, he'd have lived. It's not going.
Yeah, really. It really bugs me.
Bugs me.
It's strange. One thing, about this whole revival of Hendrix, and the new albums that are coming out, and the new interest, it sort of says something, I think, about where the rock audiences are at now. I mean, they're at a point where they can't take any more of the cliches that we were talking about earlier, right? They want something, they want a new thing, I think that's
I'm trying to give it to them. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do everything in my power to get them. I don't care how many groups come up and do it better. I help to put it to them.
Why do you play music?
I've been on the road with him, mate. I know.
I love it.
When he goes to bed, I do say never let him take his shoes off. Make him think he's single.
When you say, you work on cars and you work in the country and do things, and then you play.
My musical ration would be increased if I found a little bit more hope in what I'm doing. If I saw a light, somebody. My album's selling really well, you know, which is really encouraging. I'll do less car work, you know, if I see the album tape.
Well, he's the guy who's got a beard. I don't
But I ain't knocking myself out for 200 people in a club, you know. I want to play on the same level that I'm used to.
You get frustrated like everybody else. Huh? I mean, at points, you know.
At times you get a little frustrated.
But yeah, he's got a leather jacket.
Especially when you go reading the paper, like 6 pages of shit, you know, like nothing but hype groups, you know.
Yeah, the commercial is
Sensationalist groups that just like, you know, getting little kids along.
Kiss.
Fuck, I don't even know the names of them.
Yeah, it's
I don't want any connection with it at all.
it's become music.
Exactly, you know, not even music, at least that's sound music. The stuff they play is discordant most of the time.
I don't know what they're doing right now. What are they doing right now, right? Well, I had on Let Up the other day because they're all.
What bothers me, I think, the most is people like, you know, Lennon and people who have written good things in the past now have got into sort of a Las Vegas mentality of being at parties and drinking their martinis with Elton John. And
Who needs that? Who needs it? I still come to gigs and I still play the same way that I did. Have the same attitude.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and there's some interesting historical references in there, that's for sure. And it later turned out Hendrix actually did not die because they sat him up. What they thought was vomit around his mouth was actually caused by the overdose of sleeping pills that he had. But anyway, some great historical references, and you see Beck's got a little bit of an attitude, but he's a consummate pro. And I really enjoy doing that. I love some of the 70s terms in there, like I'm a record freak. Anyway, it wasn't that far from the 60s. So anyway, like I said, if you enjoyed yourself, please hit like on the channel and subscribe to my channel. There'll be some good stuff coming up pretty soon. Thank you.